And good morning, 8 minutes after the hour on this Friday. And I'm telling you, man, it's going to be another hot one out there, a scorcher. So you guys be careful with whatever you're doing. If you're outside, make sure that your dog is walk early, DL. get up around 5 o'clock and walk Bella. Don't have Bella little hot paws out there on that concrete. So, but anyway, good morning to you. And we're back to Fridays with Jay and DL. And good morning to you, Jay and DL.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Man, your voice sound kind of heavy. What you doing? You sound like Barry White this morning. What's up with that?
I don't know. Maybe they need some tea and honey.
Say what now?
I need to drink some tea and honey, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh boy, you got you.
No. Hey Jay, I know what the deal is. He's doing it for his wife. He's waiting, laying in bed. Good morning, baby. Oh, DL, you sound so sexy. Hey guys, look, a lot going on. Talk of some local stuff here first, and then we'll go to the state, and we can wind up just a little bit in the end with something national. I did send you guys a thing, which I think is relevant for conversation. That piece about what's going on up there in Raleigh. It's not local here, but I think it reflects on what municipalities are doing with regard to housing. And I mean, does anybody care about the poor? I mean,
yeah, that
Jay,
is pretty. I saw that, and I didn't even know about that. You're talking about what Kane Real Estate is doing.
Yeah.
That's a terrible thing. Please set it up though for our listeners.
Yeah. So this housing area. What neighborhood was that in? I can look it back up.
North Hills.
Yeah, North Hills, right. And it's been there a long time. Of course, they said the range of rent there was something like from 800, 700.
900 to 1,500.
Yeah, 900 to 1,500, right.
1,500.
But they're bulldozing that down. And and they're redeveloping this thing, and of course, those people wouldn't be able to afford to live there.
No.
They're going to be displaced. How many units were there? I forgot that.
There was over 300 units.
Right, which is, that's significant, and particularly the market now in Wake County and Raleigh is high, extremely high. But I'm told by I'm trying to think of my man's name now. He's the public information director for DOT. He said 100 people are moving to Raleigh a day. Every day they get 100 new residents. That's huge. But they're coming there with money.
That is huge.
So I wonder, what are they going to do with these poor people, though, man?
Well, it's like in what's happening in Durham and Raleigh and other areas, gentrification. I mean, it's really sad. My daughter, I'm just using her as an example, her and her boyfriend couldn't afford anything in our region. They had to move outside the area. There's no affordable housing. And in Raleigh, Durham especially, I can just speak for this area, that you're absolutely right. These people are going to be stuck without housing. The average rent, I know I was looking at a lot of the rents in the Durham area. They're building a lot of new units. I mean, you can't really get into anything, even $1,700 a month, and that's going to be for like a studio. So I'm not sure what's going to happen. Kane Realty has really just taken over that whole area of North Hills. If you haven't been there, I mean, it's a lot of very high-end shops, condos, and a lot of Type A office space over there, and it's just a whole new landscape. Now they're going to take over even more, and it's really tough when we talk about affordable housing. I don't know where it is. Durham talks about affordable housing. I don't know where it is. Now Fayetteville I did have to say one thing, just sort of attached to this, how they're doing those tiny houses in Fayetteville, and we can talk about that later. That's a great idea, but if you continue to build these high-end apartments and condos, folks are really going to be struggling that get kicked out of these areas like they are in North Hills. And it's a sad state of affairs because it's all about money and greed, unfortunately, in a lot of these areas. It's about making money.
Yeah, it is. I did pull it up. So they called it Midtown something there. And there's evidently it was a drone probably making shots of it. Now, I admit it looks worn and old, so it's been there for a minute.
It is.
Based on the way it looks.
Yeah, but I've never heard of any problems in that area. Listen, I agree. Maybe you need to redevelop, but there has to be, when we talk about all of these plans for redevelopment in these areas, there's got to be plans for affordable housing.
Sure.
And I know in Durham, they just did something in Durham, which I still don't really understand. They're building, they say, affordable housing, not far from me, starting in the upper 300s. Is that affordable for most people, 400,000? For most people?
I don't think so.
On.
I don't think so.
Let's just be real. That may be affordable in this area compared to other homes, but it's really a joke. I'm not really sure what the answer is.
Dear, you got any comments on that?
Well, like he said gentrification is taking over. This affects Charlotte, Raleigh area. And basically what you're going to have to do, we got to tell our young folks that are in high school now, a family should have been doing this for years. You got to have good credit to be competitive to get a decent house. If your credit is not good, then that puts you behind the eight ball. Even if you have a decent income with credit, it's going to hurt you. So basically, what folks want to start doing is like subsidized housing. Folks are going to start, families are going to start living together and getting bigger houses. And like in the Raleigh area, you're going to look at Granville County. What county is Roxborough? I forgot what county is that. In some areas of Johnson County, they're going to have to move out if you can't afford to live in Raleigh. Raleigh and Charlotte is growing, and then if you think about Wake County, the Apexes and Holly Springs, those are high-end areas as well as Cary. So basically, you're going to have to prepare yourself. If you got some land, hold on to it, and but subsidized housing, and hopefully this thing turns around with this new law that came into play last week that's stopping all these equity firms from buying up all these houses. And this started in Atlanta. Atlanta is when you saw the increase of private equity firms, American Homes for Rent, Tricon Homes, and First Key Homes. It started in Atlanta years ago, and now it's contagious.
The other thing, I just want one thing to add. There have been articles recently saying that college graduates are living at home for years instead of moving right out. So there's a big segment of the population that can't afford houses that are still living with mom and dad.
That's true.
And that may be the way for a lot of these people until we can figure out the solution. But you're right, good credit is important, but we got to come up with a way to build affordable housing so young people want to have a future. There used to be that thing, you graduate school and there's that future, you buy that house with the white picket fence. That doesn't seem to be an option for a lot of young people, and that to me is really sad.
Yeah. So, Barry White, you need to back off just a little bit on the phone there. We're trying to adjust between you and Jay, but you're a little too Barry this morning. Okay. Anyway, but look, here in Fayetteville, last point. Here in Fayetteville, they applied for a grant, I know a year or so ago, for subsidized housing, and that would be what used to be called Elliott Circle, which is down the street from where I am right now at 2520 Murchison. And I think that grant would be successful this year to try to put, some housing there. What is termed as affordable housing. And also they're looking at trying to build some affordable housing on the corner of Rowan and Bragg Boulevard, what used to be, the restaurant. You know what I'm talking about? Getting brain fogs this morning. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, right? I know exactly where.
That's all pushed down now because it's just an open field there. So, but those are things that I think that are important that we have to look at. But the name I was talking about was Andrew Boxdale. You guys remember Andrew used to work for the Federal Reserve. Yeah.
He usually wrote good stories about us or me and the city, and absolutely.
He wrote good stories about you
now, so.
So I don't like him anymore.
About me most of the time. There were not many I didn't read many negative stories about me, but you know what? I'm sure there were some.
I used to like him, but I don't like him anymore now.
He was a fair and balanced writer.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Yeah, he's a good guy. He's a good guy.
Yeah. Can I just add one more thing?
Shoot, go ahead.
Too, just the story about housing, because it really is. It was just a story yesterday. The Huff, Ralph Huff and his wife donated $2 million for those 16 tiny homes they're going to build for veterans. Again, an opportunity to give veterans housing, and considering we're an Army town in Cumberland County, military town, I thought that was wonderful news. And maybe we need to do more tiny homes to provide affordable housing, because these tiny homes are really nice. So anyway, just wanted to announce that the Huffs donated $2 million. And this has been, I think I remember reading 3 years in the planning.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a problem with that. Some people are like, I know there's one guy, well, man, tiny house, you need to buy them big houses. I'm like, well, okay now, bro, you sound like you need to be up in New York.
Yeah. Well, they tax you on everything. And one last thing, I'll never understand when it comes to veteran homelessness. First of all, we need to make sure these are veterans, because not everybody that served is a veteran. But when do we put that on local municipalities to build home for veterans? Veterans, you went federal service. I don't mind helping veterans because I'm one, but that shouldn't be. Veteran homelessness is not a municipality issue, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It affects everybody, not just veterans.
Correct.
That's the federal government.
Yeah, that's why they needed a private donation to really kick it off. That wasn't the city of Fayetteville or the county. That was Ralph Huff and a private organization kicking this thing off. But you're right. I mean, you can't, with homelessness, you can't just, for local government, you can't target a specific group, I wouldn't think.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you on that. I mean, but that's where we are with that. Can we roll over to what's going on up in Raleigh? The governor is getting his stuff is getting kicked back. He's vetoing stuff, but they are veto proof because two people that he rolled against are now saying, "Hey, look, they're just not showing up for the vote." So, it's working against them. You know what I mean?
Payback.
So the North Carolina General Assembly, what they did was, they passed this thing where they're saying, you can't be teaching divisive stuff. What they call divisive concept, discriminatory practices, DEI offices, and positions in public schools. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Well, I'll let DEI start. I'll let DL start, not DEI start. DL.
Okay.
You can start, because I have some thoughts on it, but you can start, DL.
I didn't know they were teaching DEI subjects in school, so that's news to me. I look at it like this: the term DEI, whoever started the term, I assume it started with good intentions, and I've never really deep dived into what is DEI subjects. But here's what I'll say: the Army uses a word we call EO. That's been in place since I joined in '87. You're going to be better served in this society is using the term equal opportunity. I'm not here to debate equal opportunity with anybody. I'm just saying if that's what the military determines, that's their answer to DEI. Now, with the government having it overturned, listen, to me, I would never endorse a candidate as a governor, a Democrat. If you're a Democrat governor, why would you want to get involved in that? Because this is the fallout from that. So those folks that he openly campaigned against, they're upset. They're just not going to come to Raleigh and vote. And so his vetoes are going to get overturned. So, but I didn't know DEI was being taught, just like, what's that other one we talked about a couple of years ago, critical race theory. I didn't know it was being taught in elementary school. Unless he's talking about college, I wouldn't know what they teach in college as well.
Well, see,
that's just my 2 cents on that subject.
So there were 12 outlawed teaching concepts. I go through this real quickly.
Okay, 12.
One race or sex is inherently superior to another. Can't teach that. Teaching that individuals solely on the virtue of their race or sex are inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive. Next concept would be individuals solely by virtue of their race or their sex bear responsibility for actions committed in the past by other members of the same race or sex.
You can't teach. Is that what you say? You can't teach that.
Yeah, you can't teach these things. What I'm talking about. Rule of law.
I disagree with that.
So what now?
I disagree with that.
Really? Okay, well, I'll stop right there then.
Absolutely. Well, you get back to me. You go over them. And I'll
okay.
So
and then the rule of law is the principle that all people, institutions, and entities are accountable to laws that are publicly made, independently adjudicated, does not exist. Instead, there is a series of power relationships and struggles among racial or other groups. And that and just teaching that some things are,
I'll jump back in.
And then just teaching that some things are inherently racist or sexist. But now here's my thing right here. The question is this, because I have a dear friend. Let me preface this right here. And we were talking about some of this kind of stuff one day. And I said, but my point's right here. Okay, look, why would I want some little white kid sitting in a classroom to feel negative or sad or anything based upon something that happened 100 years ago or even 50 years ago that he had nothing to do with? And this guy, I respect this guy a lot. He's a very educated person. But his response to me, yeah, well then, because now they'll know how we felt. Well, he's about 80 years old. So this child that's 10 years old, he's talking about how somebody 80 years old like him, how he felt. How is that the same thing? Why would we want to make a kid feel bad for what their parents did? And make it make sense.
You make a very good point. It's called white guilt.
Right.
And I will be honest with you. I'll be honest with you. I agree with you in that sense. But history is history. I think young kids, I would agree, 10-year-olds should not be exposed to that because intellectually they're not able to comprehend that. When you get into high school, just like what's going on in Philadelphia where they changed the story, they didn't want to go so far back in history and talk about, Washington's slaves and how badly they were treated. They want to sort of sugarcoat it a little bit. That just happened recently at Philadelphia. But here's the bottom line. Why can't we just talk about history and have an honest conversation? Don't make the white kids feel guilty. Don't sort of in your face. They used to do that with diversity training. I used to be in diversity training years ago, and white people in the room would feel so uncomfortable when the facilitator would talk about, black-white relations and civil rights and stuff. Listen, that's history, but it's how you have the conversation is what's important. I believe you got to talk about history, and you got to go all the way back and just talk about it. It doesn't mean blaming the white kids, but what it does mean is it was a terrible time in history, and we got to talk about slavery. So there's ways to do it, I think, Troy. And if you start trying to point fingers at these young people and make them feel guilty, not the way to do it. But if you talk and have a conversation, honestly, with people, and don't blame and just talk, I think that's the way to do it. So, no, I would disagree with what the state's trying to do because I do think they want to somehow sugarcoat things, and I don't think that's the way to do it. That's my opinion.
Well, real quickly. First of all, let's look at it from a political standpoint.
Yeah.
Because the Dems didn't show up, they don't have the votes. It's a done deal. It's law. But here's my thing, Troy and Jay. When it comes to this history, certain black leaders on the state and nationally known so fixated on history, that's not hurting. That's not stopping black kids from learning. That's not allowing them to go to colleges. It's math, writing, and reading. That's the focus of where it needs to be for black kids. History, you can learn history at home. Folks got various platforms, libraries, YouTube, because folks are going to, depending on who you talk to about history, a black person anyway, you're going to have various points of views. But one thing is universal is math. So that's why I'm not concerned about these laws that were passed, because the black kids that you're listening to right now struggle with math. And that's why I couldn't go in the Air Force, the Army, and that asked me if that math got me.
Your point is well made, though, DL. But I think there still should be a piece of that conversation having to do with history. It shouldn't be 90% of the conversation. You're right. It's the academics, it's the science and math and English. That should be a priority. But I think a piece of it, we should not just sugarcoat the past. That's all I'm saying. So no, I totally agree.
Well, but guys, I guess we're rolling up on a break. But look, my question is, well, what do you call sugarcoating? I was reading this thing, and it was interesting. Was talking about what do the Japanese teach their children about Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the dropping of the bomb. You might be surprised. They don't take a very hate approach with that with Americans. Would that surprise you?
It would.
Well, I'm just saying is that, but again, though, I mean, well, we know what those bombs did to those places.
I don't doubt that that's true. I don't doubt it's true, but I'm saying it would surprise me a little bit. I would be angry, but maybe I'm overreacting. Hey, you're two black men, and you're saying, in a sense, focus on other things. Here I'm a white guy, and I'm saying focus on the slavery part and the history. So maybe I'm off a little bit here.
I think you are, but still.
No, Jay, I can speak. I can speak for myself, Jay, real quickly.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm seeing in America among certain black leaders. They want our kids to become victims, and they're victors.
Exactly.
I won't have any role in it. You're not. That's not me. I refuse to.
Exactly. Well, look, what I'm going to do is, guys.
Thank you for sharing that, by the way.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
Well, look, guys, I'm going to let Alan Rogers come in on this conversation just a little bit, okay? He's texting me, and he's going to be doing a show eventually. So, look, I'm going to let him in after the break. Okay, we're going to a break. We'll be right back.
North Carolina will still be under the influence of a high-pressure system for the next couple of days, meaning hot and humid conditions will continue. Chance of rain develops, though, later in the weekend. It's a culture of extravagant spending. That's the assessment of State Auditor Dave Bolick in releasing a more than 2,600-page audit of the town of Cary's financial troubles. In a primetime address, President Trump says the U.S. election security falls catastrophically short. At the same time, the State Board of Elections voted along party lines Thursday to adopt new voter identification rules that will make it easier for county election boards to reject certain ballots in North Carolina. Recent cases of intestinal illness have been linked to shredded lettuce being served at some Taco Bell locations. None in North Carolina, though, have been identified. So much for the focus on Royal Birkdale. The leader at the British Open is Jackson Suber, playing in his first ever tournament in Europe. Tony Bixby in CNU.
I'm Jamie Monticelli, WIDU Radio News. Fayetteville PWC has activated Stage 1 alert at the City of Fayetteville's water shortage response ordinance. That voluntary stage asks customers to reduce non-essential water use to help protect water supplies for drinking, sanitation, and fire protection. Ways you can help include limit outdoor watering, avoid washing vehicles and hard surfaces, delay filling pools, ponds, and fountains. Do you have questions, ideas, or feedback about Cumberland County? Coffee with the Commissioners is your chance to connect with your county commissioners in an informal setting, ask questions, share what's important to you, and learn more about the projects and initiatives shaping the community. There are events on Tuesday, August 4th, 6 until 7 p.m. at the Bethany Rural Fire Department Station 12, and Wednesday, August 19th, 8 until 9 a.m. at the Town of Hope Mills Government Public Safety Center. From WIDU Radio, I'm Jamie Monticelli.
Good morning. It's hot and you may notice a bit hazy today as well as wildfire smoke from Canada continues to move in. High temperatures range from 96 to 100 this afternoon. About a 20% chance of a pop-up storm. Tonight, it's partly cloudy. Lows are in the low to mid 70s. And tomorrow, highs reach the mid to upper 90s under partly cloudy skies with isolated storms late. I'm meteorologist Kat Campbell in the NCN Weather Center.
Remember the rotary phone? Well, soon that's what people are going to ask about gas-powered cars. And every day we see videos of robots becoming more and more like us. Welcome to the future. At Fayetteville State University, we believe that anything really can happen. So wherever it is that you want to go, we've got a program for that. Visit Fayetteville State University and find out how we're preparing students just like you for what comes next. Fayetteville State University. Are you in?
It's Jeff Thompson, your bloomin' idiot from Bell's Seed Store, directly across the street from the courthouse in wonderful downtown Fayetteville. You know, I know there's a lot of vegetable gardeners out there, and if you're looking for someplace to find the perfect vegetables to put in your garden, I've got every one you could possibly want. I've got all of your late winter vegetables. I've got your summer vegetables, squash, tomatoes, cucumbers, broccoli, lettuce, cabbage. I've got probably 30 different types of herbs. I've got tons of different varieties of pepper plants. Any kind of vegetable you want to grow, if you can't find it at Bell's Seed Store, there's seriously something wrong. And then if you want to get flowers for your yard, Lord, I've got more color going all over the place for all the flowers, for all the vegetables, for your trees, your shrubs, anything you want to plant in your lawn and garden, you need to come check us out. It's right across the street from the courthouse, 230 East Russell Street in downtown Fayetteville at Bell's Seed Store, your hometown lawn and garden center since 1919.
Good morning and happy Friday. It's a hot and hazy day out there. Some wildfire smoke from Canada continues to move in. Highs range from 96 to 100 degrees. Storm chances stay very isolated at just 20%. And tonight, it's partly cloudy with lows in the low to mid 70s. Tomorrow, some isolated storms are possible by the evening. Otherwise, it's partly cloudy with highs in the mid to upper 90s. I'm meteorologist Kat Campbell in the NCN Weather Center.
Back to the morning show, DL, Jay, and Alan, are you there?
I am. Good morning.
Good morning. So you want to chime in on that, but like I was saying that, but look guys, think about this right here. Let me inject this right quick. The Japanese have a lot of cars on the road here. You see what I'm saying? We may have bombed them, but look, they made friends pretty quick. Same thing with the Germans, man. Come on. Look, have you thought, just to think about this, how many German and Japanese cars are there in America? And
you know, I think that's a very good point. The Japanese have not been disenfranchised the way African Americans have, and the suggestion that history should be sugar-coated so as to not cause someone to feel less is totally irresponsible. You make a good point. They have cars because they were not taken to the levels that they did African Americans. And I'm sensitive to children, but watch it. We change history or color code it or sweeten it up to be sensitive to their feelings. These black kids have to hear that they were less than human and that's part of history, and no one changes that. But you made my point for me before I could even speak when you talk about all these Japanese cars that are on the road and all this other evidence of them being empowered.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm not, if you understood me to say that history should be sugar-coated, then that's a misrepresentation of what I'm saying. I never said that. I think that we ought to teach history, but I think that it shouldn't be done in a way that will cause any child to feel guilty or anything concerning anything.
Why don't you read that again? Well, you stated something to the effect that no one should be held. It should not be suggested that anyone be held accountable for circumstances that they created.
But the child didn't create it. The child didn't.
Well, the child may not have, but he's a benefactor of it because his inheritance was made available because of slavery, because of rape, because of murder. And to suggest that we need to exclude that to spare his feelings, it's crazy.
That's not.
But that's the society we live in.
But that's not what
Alan,
he's saying.
could I ask you a question? Oh.
Well, I'm just saying.
I had a question for you, Alan,
okay,
regarding what's going on, and I'm totally in agreement with you, Alan. What are your thoughts? They did that in Philadelphia with removing some of the history about George Washington and slavery. Isn't that exactly what you're referring to? Changing history.
It is exactly what we're referring
Thank
to.
You.
And I certainly, Troy and I agree more than we disagree, and I certainly would say that wasn't his position, but the notion that we need to go to those levels to protect those feelings makes absolutely no sense. That's one of the problems that we have. You have folks that want to deal in truth. Jesus is white. People that want to deal in truth, and you have people that want to sidestep significant facts of our history. Right. And you can't do that and expect to create that country, that society that we want our children to grow up in. I think our children, they're able to understand what they were responsible for versus what a civilization that came long before them that had not established, the principles and values embraced. I think they can separate themselves, and we can too. But to try to rewrite history, to spare feelings is ridiculous. No one's sparing ours.
Well, I got a question for all you guys now, because see, I think Alan, I was talking to you about this a couple weeks ago. Now you do know that the slave trade started with Africans selling Africans. I mean, and this one queen over there, she is responsible probably for sending more Africans to the Western Hemisphere than anybody. And now she is hated there, but she's revered in a lot of places. I mean, when we talk about when we talk about the African slave trade, it didn't begin with just Europeans bringing us here. There was a lot of help from intertribal stuff and everything else that went on in Africa. Are we going to teach that? Is that okay to teach that? That's the question.
Absolutely. I think it's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I mean, how about that? That's what it's called. The truth, the whole truth. You don't. We at times when you learn law, you ask what was the intent of the founders, what was the intent of things being this way or that. And as society changes, perhaps intent changes. But I mean, just give the entire truth, and let the people sort it out. But careful when you need to sidestep sensitive issues, because children certainly are able to adjust, and I think they've adjusted a lot more than some of us older folks.
Okay, well, look.
Yeah, good point.
Let's deal with the present time. Why aren't we talking about all of the murders that happens in Philadelphia, Atlanta, Chicago, Detroit? Why aren't we having an honest conversation about young African Americans that are dying at the hands of other young African Americans, which all of this will become history Mr. Rogers. And but
Well, because in order to do that, we'd have to talk about the lack of ships that they had to bring those drugs to those communities. We have to talk about the organized crime families that contributed to establishing some of those places. We'd have to talk about the law enforcement officers that were a part of that drug trade. We have to talk about, the resources that those schools that many of those kids grew up in, or the opportunities and the families that didn't have fathers, because if you had a man in the house, you couldn't get a place to stay. So they worked to keep the family divided. So you see, Troy, you got to talk about all that. You can't just talk about
and who ran about the house, sir.
You got to talk about where you're getting the weapon from.
I'm saying,
I like that, Alan.
and I'm glad you like that. So now, my question is, who ran?
Hold on. Wait, Troy.
Address that, Troy.
Go ahead, DL. Go ahead.
I'm going to get back towards the bill that we were talking about. Here's my thing with some of the laws that are coming out of the General Assembly. There was no need for no law for critical race theory, and to me there was no need for a law that they just passed. However, I'll say this, Alan, I'm not going to – here's my point on this issue that Jay and Troy brought up. You don't have the numbers to change the law, so I'm not going to cry over spilled milk. So we got to make sure our kids, we have other resources to teach everything that you're talking about. And I do agree with you. We shouldn't spare no kid, no matter what race he is, when we're teaching history, the good, bad, and whatever. That's my point in all of this. We have to make sure as a community, as a whole, that we teach our kids whatever they don't get in that school system. Because like you say, Troy, most of these school teachers are white females. And depending on what side of the political aisle they fall on, it's going to be their story. It's going to be their story to our children, and that's all I'll say.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Troy, again, I appreciate the subject. I'm on the road, and I don't want to fade away. But I think, you're making good, important points. I think there needs to be more responsibility in the black community. These kids that are shooting, they are coming from homes. There are people that could have an impact on their lives, and they have to be more responsible as well. So let me not suggest that there is a single antidote, but I just think that accountability and responsibility must be had by everyone. I think that when we erase these periods of our history where we couldn't work at the courthouse, where we couldn't be law enforcement, we also eliminate consequences of those long periods. The Japanese perhaps didn't have as much of that, but I'm on the road. I don't want to fade out. I appreciate your conversation as well as giving me an opportunity to be a part.
Thanks so much for calling in.
Thank you, Alan.
And Jay, let me say this.
Troy, I got a question.
Okay, go.
Yeah, no. So because you just mentioned, I want to hear from you regarding black-on-black violence, and you posed that question to Alan. What is the answer? Because typically what I hear is black-on-black violence is mostly in blue states, in blue cities.
That's
because
fact.
The blue cities are the most populated cities, and oftentimes. So what's the answer? I mean, how do you have this conversation without actually coming up with strategies? So that's what I'm sort of wondering.
Well, but I think that can we agree on this? That not talking about it is not an answer. And can we agree with that?
We got to talk about it.
Huh? And you see,
totally agree.
And that's what we're doing. We're not talking about it. And I'm glad that Alan brought up the fact. He said, well, fathers are not in the house. Let's have a history discussion about that. Let's go back to the 1960s when, I'm trying to think, the guy that was the Assistant Secretary of Labor, God, I can't think of his name now.
Monahan.
Yeah. Say who now?
Monahan.
Yeah. Monahan said. Yeah. Monahan said, if you do this, you're going to destroy the black family. NAACP, Lyndon Johnson, everybody, you're a racist, blah, 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 blah. Well, because they forced the male out of the home, Jay, and they say, and made the husband to black women become government, Uncle Sam. You see what I'm saying? And now you're going to talk about,
So help me understand that again, because, I have to plead ignorance here. I don't understand that part of it, and that seems like a big part that I'm missing. So help me understand that in the 50s.
Before they did that, 75% of all of African American homes had a stable mom and dad in the home. After Johnson's Great Society program, supposedly to lift people out of poverty, with the restrictions they had on a male being in the home, it flipped completely. Now you only have 25% of the homes with an African American home with a male and a female, because the condition was that we will help you, but the male can't be here. Because understand, matter of fact, it's a felony. If that male is there, and and she is allowing him to be there, and not only that, housing authority, I know for a fact they be searching homes looking for male shoes and clothes and all this other stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, my 80-year-old aunt who lived right there off of Rose Hill Road before she passed, they were searching her house for stuff like that. I'm just saying is that now if we're going to talk about history, let's talk about that history. How did we get here? You know what I mean?
Well, that's a good point.
Because I mean, that's a lot of things that happened, and we know who did that. You know what I mean? But you see, we don't want to have that discussion. That's not right.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to have the discussion. So, that's important, because that takes us to where we are today. And unless we talk about that history, it just really helps illustrate the problems that the black homes are having today, based on decisions and laws that were created back in the 50s, correct?
That's true. Well, I'm saying, Johnson's thing was 68, around 68, but still, I'm saying, and not only that, look, let's tell the whole story about the African slave trade. It wasn't just white people. I'm not trying to defend white people. I'm just saying it's like, let's tell the truth. Let's tell the truth about what was going on the continent of Africa. It would have never happened had not black people sold out black people. They were not going into dark Africa. They were bringing them to the Gold Coast, and the whites, the European whites, were they had the ships there, and they was taking them over. There is this one ship. What state is that in anyway? Though the ship, the guy thought he burned the ship up. Have you heard about that? And it was one of the last ships to bring African slaves to America, and they had been talking about that through their families, and they had passed that along. And just recently, within the last year, because they would say, "Oh no, it's not true," blah blah blah. But this is a black town somewhere, and that ship is actually underwater now, and they found it, and how they crammed these black people in there and enslaved them and brought them here. But yeah, it's a horrific story. However, to assign blame to someone here, I believe you can teach history without assigning blame to survivors. Can you do that?
Yeah.
Dia, what you think?
What was that, Troy?
Can we teach history? Can we teach history without assigning blame to a survivor? Now, somebody said, well, and not only that, did you know that they were African American slave owners? Did you know that, Jay?
Yes, I did.
I mean, and what history says that they were much more brutal than their white counterparts.
But we also know that go on, Dia.
Well, when it comes to history, it's just going to be, the school system has, I guess, public instruction. They determine what history books, well, if they're using history books now to resource. It's all going to be in whoever story you tell. My point is that the government participated in slavery, and they violated our civil rights over 400 years ago. And I understand the origin of slavery, Troy, and I do agree with that. I should say teach it all, but you have to come to a point on how much of the curriculum are you going to focus on when it comes to slavery and whatnot. I can tell you, we talked about history, and when I was in school back in the early 70s, it started in Africa, and then you just progress during George Washington days up to the 60s and 70s is where it commenced. Me personally, it's a subject that we decided to talk about, but I'll say this, and I'll say it to you and Alan and everybody. History is important. You shouldn't teach it so you don't hurt somebody else's feelings, but also I'm not going to, I don't want that black kid to think, well, they had a leg up on me. That's just my point of view on it.
Sure.
I got it. Any way we can, in the last few minutes, talk about what happened in Cary, because it is a local story.
Shoot.
And
Go
I know
for it.
that DL wanted to just hit that because
Go ahead.
we have been talking about what Dave Boliak has done and how it's hitting so many different areas. DL, I know you wanted to hit that.
Well, real quickly, it just proves my point that putting on the ballot we vote in November to limit the authority of municipalities to raise property taxes. Now, I don't want that to affect the municipalities and county governments who are doing the right thing. But a place like Cary, the Rocky Mountains, and the other cities we keep finding, Pallet Mountain, that we keep finding where there are OPM, other people's money, because what they did in Cary, this guy's probably going to, this city manager's probably going to, I ain't going to say it, he's under investigation, and he may be indicted.
Go to prison.
But the Oakleys, I don't say go to prison, Jay, because he's got to be indicted, then found guilty. But my point is, this town council, they went to see some project, and the sun was out, $1,600 Oakleys, $220 ribeyes, just spending money like a drunken sailor on leave. That's what they were doing, the city council, and he had to have somebody approving it. And to me, the oversight for his bosses, which are the elected officials, there was no oversight. Everybody was getting in on it. They produced a video for $80-some thousand, and the citizens of Cary ought to be upset. Now, and this is why I say the ballot, what's on the ballot in November, is much needed, but I don't want it to affect the municipalities who are spending taxpayers' money wisely.
Yeah. Just one thing to add to that Cary has one of the largest fund balances of any municipality in the state. They have tons of cash. They could do everything the right way. The one thing that stood out to me, because there are always issues with purchasing cards in organizations, that always jumps out. 66% of the employees had a purchasing card or a P card. In most cities, it's 16%. That's a big part of the problem. A lot of the spending, there was no justification. So that was, they said $23 million was spent on P cards. That's a problem. Okay, $23 million was spent on P cards. And when 66% of the employees have them, there you go. That's a big part of the problem. And then when you have a city manager that, like you said, spent money like it was his own money, outrageous, embarrassing, and I hope that heads will, or people, I don't know what the term is, but I hope people lose their jobs over it, because that is not being a good steward of the taxpayer dollar. Embarrassing.
Yeah, that's part of the challenge with. But, when you allow people to have that kind of access to money,
yep.
Hey, look, that's, you can expect that kind of thing to happen, man. Come on,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right. You're right. Absolutely.
I mean, it happened. I don't know if it happened on your watch or not, but you remember here when you had some police officers that was buying gas.
Not under my watch. After me. I want to make sure that is on the record. It was after me, Troy. Thank you.
But understand, though, look, they were, but you see, this is the problem I have. And Alan, because I've seen some of Alan's case, I working on this case. There were kids that bought $5 worth of gas, and they charged everybody in the car with a felony, okay, that was in the car. And they used somebody else's car to get $5 of gas. When you have a police officer out here, I think one of them, it was up to about $20,000. And he didn't go to jail. Matter of fact, I think he just moved over to some other job. I mean, I'm like, see, that's the problem I have when I see that kind of thing. And these young black boys, all of them, I don't know what the outcome of that case was, I don't remember, but they charge all of them with felonies. The same police department that one of their colleagues, more than one of their colleagues, was using that gas card to put gas in their private vehicles, and nobody got charged. You see what I'm saying? See,
that's outrage. Accountability.
Yeah, I mean, that's my take.
Accountability.
Well, look, let me end with this, guys. Coming back to this thing again. Look, if we're gonna do all that, you need to get your DNA tested. Now, you know that thing that comes on PBS with the guy that does the history stuff. You know, look back in people's.
Oh yeah, he's great, Doctor. Anyway, I watched that a lot, and I can't remember his name.
Gates, right? His name.
Yeah,
Look,
Louis Gates, right.
He had Angela Davis on. I'm talking about Angela Davis. You know what I mean? California.
Yep.
Guess where? When they traced her all the way back, guess where her dad was at? He came over on the Mayflower. Can you believe that?
Wow.
See what I'm saying? I mean, that's my whole thing, is that just because your skin is dark doesn't mean that your relatives specifically, you don't know where they came from unless you check it all the way back. You see what I'm saying? Because all of us are biracial in some kind of way. Most black people in America are biracial. But that's all I'm saying.
Our first black president is biracial.
Right, so I'm saying, so are you supposed to feel guilty about the white half of you? That's, I mean, isn't that a fair question? I mean, you know what I mean? Come on.
Yeah. Hey, Troy, let me correct something I said a few minutes ago.
Okay.
When I think I said that I didn't want black kids to feel like somebody got a leg up on them. Well, a lot of folks got a leg up on us, but what I meant to say is that even though they got a leg up on you, that's not where you're going to end at. I don't want you to be a victim. Right. Make sure you're doing the right thing and control your destiny and your life goals. You can do that. I want to make sure I correct that, because people hear one part. Oh, are you hear what Faulkner said on WIDU this morning? So I had to correct that.
Okay, guys, look, we got to get out of here. I appreciate you.
I would have held you on that.
Thank you, guys. Look, Heartbeats coming up at 10 o'clock and MP3 at 11. You guys have a great rest of your day and a great weekend. Supposed to cool down a little bit on Sunday. So I see you guys in church on Sunday morning.